Thank you, Madam Secretary, for joining us today. You know, as we were meeting today, you know, we just got the administration's budget yesterday and tried to dig through the numbers and get an understanding. But, you know, just from top line, over the next 10 years, we're spending $8.2 trillion in spending. We're raising in revenue, or bringing in revenue, $65 trillion, which equates to a corresponding deficit of $17 trillion. Now, I know you said that we're having a $3 trillion cut in the deficit, but just because we're not making a $20 trillion deficit, it's still a $17 trillion increase over the 10-year period. And we talked earlier a little bit about the 15% increase in the department after already getting the $80 billion last year, and with us being in debt, and actually next year, over 1 out of $4 that is being spent in the 2024 suggested budget is borrowed. It's almost 1 out of $3 is borrowed, 30% of the spending next year. So today I want to focus a little bit and follow up a little bit on my colleague from Georgia talked about the OECD and particularly talked a little bit about the OECD Pillar 2 and the impact on the U.S. competitiveness in the world. And what's being negotiated is some radical changes in the international tax system. And we've sent a letter to my office, or there was a letter that you sent back to my office indicating you look forward to working with us to implement this. I can tell you that Congress isn't in favor of this. As several of us have mentioned, we have very main concerns, and Congress doesn't want to implement something that will make America weaker and less competitive. So, you know, last year, the Democrat majority in Congress wouldn't even pass the Pillar 1 or the Pillar 2 and the OECD provisions. So have you informed the other countries that we're negotiating with that, you know, it wouldn't pass last year and it's probably not going to pass under a Republican Congress this year?
My understanding is that there were members of Congress that did not want the United States to go first in implementing a 15% minimum tax country by country. We already have a 10.5% guilty or minimum tax on earnings of American multinationals abroad. And now the European Union has adopted it and other countries are moving forward. Japan, the United Kingdom, Singapore, many countries are going forward with this. So the issue of our going first and will others follow no longer exists.
Well, yeah,
and
well,
it's critically important for us to
it does change, though, if we, before I run out of time, if the proposal is to raise our guilty to 21% when everybody else is doing 15% is all that they have to do, I mean, that's going to make American businesses less competitive.
Well, no, it's not.
At the meantime, with the under-tax provisions, it's going to actually allow other countries to still race to the bottom through this process.
That isn't right, because right now we have a 15% tax and no other country has any tax whatsoever. So there's a 15% gap. Now they're all going to have a 15% gap, and we're proposing that we go to 21, which is a much smaller gap of 6%. We're a competitive, attractive place to do business, and having a lower tax rate on the earnings of American companies abroad than they would pay at home is an incentive to shift jobs out of the United States abroad. And we're more competitive and we're narrowing that gap, which makes it more attractive to invest in the United States.
It really is.
Disadvantage.
We would agree on that U.S. competitiveness is hurt, and that's what was addressed. And I've run out of time, but I'll yield back, Mr. Chairman.